Employers of Reddit, what is the most unique outrageous thing someone has put on a resume? My friend decided to attach a picture of her cleavage to all her resumes and LinkedIn profile. Just cleavage, no face. Surprisingly to her, she did not get any job offers. At least none that she wouldn't be embarrassed to tell me about. Motorboat captain. Not on a resume, but I sat in for interviews for my college's RA program. One kid came in with his Boy Scout scrapbook and went through it page by page. Page by freaking page. The lead interviewer stopped him in the middle and he interrupted her to say he was almost finished. To this day I wonder if he trolled us, or was just 100% oblivious to social cues that we just wanted him to stop for the love of God. The lead interviewer stopped him in the middle and he interrupted her to say he was almost finished. That's my favorite part of this story. I used to manage an AT&T store. One time a high school age kid came in and handed me a resume that was handwritten on notebook paper. He had it folded in his back pocket and didn't even tear off the pieces on the edge where he ripped the sheet out of the notebook. When I opened it up to read it, it was just a paragraph about how many friends he had at school and how they all said he needed that job. So I guess it wasn't a particular thing on the resume, so much as the resume itself. AKA my mom keeps pestering me about getting a job but I don't actually want to get one. Wasn't the employer but an old manager told us that one of the other employees listed his paper routes in his job history entry-level retail so it was applicable. The unique part? Starting position, paper boy, final position, paperman. That's actually pretty awesome. He would have gotten my vote. It was me who did it. I named my laptop Donkey Boner so when I sent my resume out to potential employers, if you looked at the file details, it was sent from Donkey Boner. I didn't notice it for several months. Frick. I had a girl put in, as her only past work experience, stripper nanny. Not only does that raise many questions, but she also submitted a detailed story describing how she got drunk, took off all her clothes, and peed in the flower beds at a local sports venue. Since my company does not specialize in flower peeing or stripper nannies, we elected not to hire her. I thought this was about someone I knew, but her resume was well written and extensive, and didn't normally contain her vast outdoor urination adventures though she enjoyed telling people about them. Apparently it's more common than I realized. When I worked for a mess stop back in the day I had a guy yell at me because we did all applications through our website. That's discrimination. What about people who don't know how to use a computer? Sir, this is a video game store you're applying at. You have to know how to use a computer in order to work here. Storms out. I am a recruiter and have seen a lot of strange things, but my absolute favorite real resume addition that is probably a gilded Reddit comment somewhere. Other skills. Fluent in sign language, which has come in handy. I kinda want to learn sign language just so I can make that joke. That's the simplest thing that has made me laugh in ages. TLDR. Putting chicken noise on your resume may not be as ridiculous as you think. I work in the performing arts, which is a field where you see a lot of odd skills on resumes because we do weird crap sometimes. I've seen a whole lot of special skills that include things like Gollum impression, can play basketball in heels, expert whistler. The list goes on. Back in undergrad an actor friend and I were comparing resumes. I'm an admin director, so he wanted an opinion from the other side of the table. The final thing on his resume was just chicken noise. So I told him, with the infinite wisdom of someone in senior year of undergrad, that he should consider removing chicken noise because it didn't seem that useful in most contexts. Flash forward to later that year, my friend is making a few bucks on the side with Rosetta Stone recording their English language programs. I get a text message. Frick you, chicken noise stays forever. It turns out that the recording he was working on that day was one of those basic learn how to order food at a restaurant lessons, and the restaurant in question was a Peruvian chicken place. In his script, he had a line that read, "Cluck cluck." My friend is a professional, so before he does it he asks the recording engineer, "Hey, can I take a pass at this with an actual chicken noise?" And the engineer's like, "Sure dude, whatever." So my friend does. When he gets out of the booth, The engineer is still laughing. Dude, that was the best chicken noise I've ever heard. We're definitely using that one. Last I heard, that engineer was still willing to vouch for that chicken noise to anyone who asked. The stars aligned for that job. He only had one name listed as a reference, with a note that said now deceased. How am I supposed to check his work history? With a Ouija board? If that's a hitman CV, then you know he's good. Had a guy put that he was best man in 5 weddings and a year-by-year summary of his stock portfolio. He was applying to be an entry-level lawyer. I was interviewing a guy for a programming position once. His resume was pretty vague and referencing technical achievements, so my boss asked a few questions. Boss, have you ever worked on a programming project in a group? Candidate, no, most of my work is done pretty independently. Boss, I imagine that limits the size and complexity of the code you write. What would you say is the biggest program you have completed? Candidate, oh, geez, well, the application I am working on at my current employer is well over, I'd say, 100 lines of code by now. Boss, 100,000 lines? Candidate, sheepish laugh, no, around 100, I'd say. Boss, oh, that's pretty small, isn't it? Candidate, well, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's over 100 lines. Boss, no, sorry, I said that wrong. I meant, that's very small. Candidate, jovial grin evaporates. So, from then on, he was legend. Stories are still told of 100 lines of code guy. Most languages I know of let you have more than one statement per line as long as there's semicolons between them. Maybe he just really hates white space. I drunkenly allowed a friend to use my laptop under my user. A month later, I discover secretly Batman was added to my resume under skills. This resume went to at least 3 companies before I saw it. He screwed you over with overqualification. Back when I was VP of a tech company, we had an L2 position open. We were looking for someone with 5 years but would consider someone with less if they had certifications. One of the resumes that came in had 2 years experience but listed on it that he had A+, MCSE, RHCA, CCNA, as well as a few others. We called him in for an interview and realized he was struggling with what I thought were basic questions like how do you change the default password size in Linux, and on a Windows system where does it store the passwords? I then noticed that although he listed the certs, he did not put any dates or cert IDs on his resume. I asked him when he got the A+ cert and he responded, I haven't gotten it yet but I expect to have it in the next 6 months. As I continued to ask about the certs, he gave the same answer for every one of them. At the end of the interview I asked how many of these certs have you signed up for and paid for, to which he responded none. But as soon as I get this job I'll sign up and do all of them in 6 months. I did not hire him. To be fair, I also don't know where Windows keeps its passwords. I would guess the registry, but that seems wrong. But that seems like a question somebody certified as a Microsoft certified solutions engineer would know. This wasn't on his resume, however when we did a background check it came up that he was arrested for animal molestation. When we inquired, he said he was walking his dog and a lady's parrot that had escaped started attacking him. Long story short, the lady who was P somehow got the police to charge him with molesting the parrot. Great guy though. I did some temping at a job agency once, where I had to scan hundreds of job applications. The team kept a board of the best quotes. I fished them out from an email I wrote to my sister in 2007. Just for you. Reason for leaving last job. Dissociation. I am enrolling in a collage course. Convictions, no. I have only cautions. I consider myself to be attractive. Jobs not considered. None. I like to sink my teeth into lots of things. My role was to hover and clean toilets. Pragint Pragund having a baby. Going to do a crash driving course. My favorite hobbit is traveling. Heard of agency through mouth of word, work of mouth. I do a forklift license. Please advise me of any current roles. Fluent in Mandolin. I am skilled in wielding. Shortly I shall be taking up golf and my family. Awarded a headmistress sticker for excellent work during a year 1 numeracy lesson. Personal qualities. Contentious. The fish and chip trade is not for me. He was a peacat under his hat and stuff. They dropped my wages not of no fault of my own. Recently I have been walking kids to school and picking them up now and then. The fish and chip trade is not for me. I wish I had realized this at a younger age. I was reading cover letters for a summer internship and one of the applicants wrote something like, "I have great attention to detail. For example, when I'm watching TV with my friends I always point out where something doesn't make sense." The business manager and I both thought that was funny as heck and hired him. Not giving examples as per Ottomad's advice, but when hiring in the 16-21 age band, you'll be shocked at how many people are still using the email addresses they obviously thought up when they were 12. I'm talking about xxnoscope 360xxx. Levels of creativity here. Former career advisor here. I saw some pretty wild things, but the two that stand out to me, a guy had an additional achievements section, and the very first thing on there was completed more than 3,000 hours on Star Ocean on PlayStation. Aside from the fact that you shouldn't list video game achievements on a resume, I remember being especially astonished because that was almost 150% of the amount of hours an employee works in a single year, 2,080 hours. A guy came in with a very accomplished resume. Several years at a director level at 2 big agencies. He'd taught college classes, had BS and MA in his field, and lots of philanthropy work. I asked why he needed help finding an entry-level job, as normally people this accomplished didn't come to see me. His response, "Oh, no, I haven't actually done any of these things. This is what I want to accomplish. This is my future resume. This is my future resume. I am so angry about this. I have never once gotten angry at anyone I've ever interviewed, but I would have been furious at this guy and probably started screaming." I wish I could remember what it actually said, but it was the worst written resume I have ever seen. No jobs held down very long. Spelling and grammar errors everywhere. No formatting. Okay, so he was recommended by a friend of mine and so I decided to give him a chance anyhow. We needed cheaper labor and the job wasn't hard. Worked out to be one of the best workers I have ever hired. Did a good job and paid attention to detail. My uncle was the employer, but I'll say it anyways. Essentially the guy had an entire section devoted to gaming achievements, where a normal person might have volunteer experience or something of that nature. He had gaming achievements. Everything from WoW Guild to Tetris high scores. My uncle photocopied and saved the resume and showed it to me. I wouldn't have believed him otherwise. I was applying for a job that required you to submit a resume electronically, and for some reason, it let you view previous applicants' resumes. So, of course, I just had to look. Best one said this under the "Have you ever been imprisoned or convicted of a crime?" I accidentally shot my friend with a shotgun and killed him because he broke down my door. Apply various typographical and grammar errors as you wish. Not outrageous to us, but I can imagine other companies not seeing the humor in this typo we spotted on someone's resume. Under education he listed pubic relations. Went to check with the dude. It had to be public relations and he was so embarrassed. But we had a great laugh. Didn't end up hiring him, but he's in our pool of do contact in case we're looking for someone extra. I work in public health and this happens more often than you'd think. I also work at a hospital and we literally do have pubic health initiatives and I keep accidentally correcting them. Previous Guitar Hero world record holder. Wasn't a lie. We googled his name and found a video of him crushing through the fire and the flames in front of a dude from Guinness. Not a resume, but somewhat similar. One of my co-workers once filled out the reason for requesting a date off as taking my girlfriend to Pound Town. It was their anniversary. He was approved. I received an application and it thoroughly detailed his last job. He worked as a son. His bosses' names were mother and father. Dates worked. Birth until present. Pay was $5 per week. And duties included taking out trash, keeping bedroom clean, attending family activities. If that was a first job for someone that is like 16, that would be pretty legit. Level 4 CrossFit athlete. She was applying to Starbucks. Didn't give her an interview just because it was mentioned 3 more times. Wish I was joking. The first rule of CrossFit is to always talk about CrossFit. I work at an escape game place and one guy stated that he was qualified to work here because he once got locked in a sonic freezer and had to escape before freezing to death. We called him into an interview just to hear the entire story. In an interview in front of a panel of 5 for a courthouse job in my early 20s. Panel: what's your definition of integrity? Me: I don't know what that word means, but I'll look it up the moment I leave here. Hired and fired 29 days later for spinning in my chair. Should have told them you have an inner ear disability and spinning in your chair recalibrates your balance and equilibrium due to moving the fluids in your eustachian tubes. A couple of years ago I was moving on from a client where I worked at the IT guy, doing pretty much everything from hardware stuff, server administration, user support, web design, etc. With most systems in place, the company was mainly looking for somebody who would do general user support and Windows troubleshooting. I was helping the boss to vet potential candidates, and one resume caught our eye because of how very blunt he describes his work attitude. It essentially read: I am very aware that IT support is just a small gear in a big machine, but I am quite proud of my job, and I tend to not get along with people that outright disrespect the work I do. I don't need praise. I don't even need a thank you. What I need is people that listen to what I tell them and pay attention to my advice. A lot of problems are caused by, frankly, stupid user behavior, and can be prevented by educating the users. If you let me do my job and heed my advice, I promise you the number of stupid errors will steadily go down. The overall productivity will rise. An important part of my work is to make sure I have less and less actual work to do and can concentrate on emergency stuff. If you expect me to just be on call all the time to fix the same preventable problems again and again, because people are not paying attention, then we will have unpleasant conversations. If I have to deal with security problems, because people can't be asked to use safe passwords, then we will have unpleasant conversations. If you expect me to work for you, but are not committed to work with me, then please throw this application away right now. We both enjoyed the bluntness, but ended up not inviting him to an interview, mostly because there were other things that gave off for this guy as a total egomaniac vibe, but also because of a couple of weird factual errors in his descriptions of previous projects he worked on. Jeezy sounds like he'd be a nightmare to work with. I can't say what was on the resume. I didn't get that far since the cover letter was 5 pages and I had things to do. I swear to God the cover letter started: it was a dark and stormy night when I was conceived. It was a dark and stormy night when I was conceived, and ever since then, I have had an affinity for helping others brave their way through dark and stormy nights. Please consider me for the lighthouse keeper position. We had a guy accidentally send his acting CV instead of his regular one. It contained loads of photos of him in different costumes. My favorite was Angry Biker, which involved lots of tight leather and a handlebar mustache. Oh my god, this is going to get buried, but I screened my all-time favorite resume last week. Underskills. Bootney. I know how to tell the difference between plants and flowers. Bootney. Bootney. We were hiring a business director and had someone apply that wrote in his cover letter that he rolled max money and would bring the big time to the small time. Did not hire. Previous experience: fat stacks. Yo. 1. Had someone submit a handwritten resume in pencil that contained can cut vegetables faster than everyone else with eyes closed or blindfolded. 2. Had someone apply whose name was something average and then underneath they wrote prefers Octavia. 3. Had someone apply who listed our company as previous employer and then reason for leaving was fired. Why bother applying again? I go by a prefer name, so all my transcripts and licenses are under my legal name, but all my references know me as my preferred name. I usually list both to be safe. I had a guy put down under other skills that he was trained in the martial art of the ninja and had been to every temple in Japan. Later he showed up to speak to me personally and to show me his box of medals. He also included a picture of Obama, not a picture of him and Obama, or anything like that, just Obama. I have 3. Had an accounting intern put on their resume an algebra problem that they solved incorrectly. One girl decided to disclose her criminal record on her resume and the charge was for indecent exposure. One manager I was hiring actually had my favorite line, ability to tame any dog, therefore ability to tame any human. Please tell me you invited in the third one in for an interview. I would have sat him down and told him the interview was one simple task. Then I would point to a random co-worker and say, tame him. I had someone whose email was oralqueen69@website and she hand wrote in pen next to it, this sounds bad but it just means I like to brush my teeth and my mom was born in 1969. Did not hire. If she couldn't take the 5 minutes to make a Gmail account with a more professional name, I can't take the 5 minutes to find you a job. Also had someone include on their skills section sometimes on time for scheduled shifts. Did not hire. A few years ago, I had to look for additional farm labor for this woman I was working for at the time. One of the resumes we received was from a dude from Baltimore, MD. Under work experience, he listed himself as the CEO of Iceman Entertainment TM. I always knew a lot of dudes listed themselves as CS of business that make no money on Twitter, but never in my life did I think I'd actually see it on someone's resume. We interviewed him anyway, and he was actually pretty cool. Didn't seem like he was an adept farmhand though. Not an employer, but I had ice cream under hobbies and interests coming out of college cause I didn't know any better and just really liked ice cream. I didn't think people would notice it but lots of interviewers pointed it out. Most memorable was when this guy asked me what ice cream flavor I would be and I said wasabi so I could troll everyone into thinking I was green tea. He loved it. Distinctive equals onderscheidend in Dutch. Onderscheidend however is crapping over something. He had a great ability to crap over something. One I got from a recruiter when hiring for the startup I had 9 years ago. ZPE. As someone with quite a bit of background in physics, I thought this probably stood for zero-point energy, as in perpetual motion. Now while there are interesting and legit questions about the quantum vacuum related to this crackpottery, the idea of harnessing ZPE is idiocy to anyone who's ever heard of the second law of thermodynamics. I talked to the guy despite this and a manifest red flag because there was a chance that I misinterpreted these. Also, potential lulls. Nope. ZPE meant what I thought. The guy was nuts as frick and didn't even know any of the physics that he claimed to be interested in. Just conspiracy. Big oil keeps this suppressed kind of crap. Big oil apologist detected. Well, this is buried now but this one always cracked me up. Not an employer, but my former manager at the seafood restaurant I work at told us about an application they once received. This man applied specifically as a chicken fryer. He only wanted to fry chicken. Under employment history he revealed how he had previously worked on a chicken farm, and his reason for leaving was that he'd been bitten by too many chickens. He was out for some serious revenge. Hahaha cluck cluck em. A guy was a stay-at-home dad and was looking to get back in the workforce. For his skills as a stay-at-home dad he put conflict resolution. The resume was a mess but the real kicker was the cover letter. The kid was Korean but for some reason the cover letter was written in French on the top and English on the bottom. Job in the US. Extremely poorly translated and printed over an image that was so pixelated you couldn't tell what it was. The cover letter and resume both had outrageous claims regarding knowledge and skills in the industry but his only experience was being a restaurant host. HR was thoroughly confused. The one that stands out was a college kid whose resume was about 90% about the Republican Party. Note, the job she was applying for had nothing to do with politics. An entire page of the resume was devoted to her roles in the college Republicans, local Republican campaigns, Republican outreach, etc. I granted her an interview, and guess what she wanted to talk about the whole time? Republicans. So, do you have any experience with any graphic design suites? That would be very handy in this position. Well, I've got a lot of knowledge of rallying young people toward the Republican Party and GOP values. Okay. Not really what I asked, but okay. What about Microsoft Excel? Well, I volunteered for Mitt Romney in Iowa and spent 2 weeks at campaign headquarters because we've got to get young people to understand that the economy is in crisis. Okay. But what about Microsoft Excel? Yeah, we had that at campaign headquarters and typed in the names of young people who realize that this nation is in moral decay so we could outreach to them to make sure Mitt Romney takes this country back. Okay, thanks for your time. Pretty sure you interviewed my Grammy by mistake. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.